the one big mistake that everyone makes when they speak with doctors. I think that everyone feels that because they're doctors and because they're in the healthcare field, that they should lead with the science. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Doctors don't really care about the science. I had the same issues when I first got involved. I was talking about, my story is my weight loss journey. I lost 120 pounds so far on the mind body GLP-1. So that's what I was starting with. Hey, this is an alternative to the prescriptions. Here's the research studies. Here's this. And I think they got overwhelmed and they thought they had to learn everything that I knew about the products to be successful. So they didn't do anything. They signed up, but never did anything. Don't lead with patient outcomes. Don't ever lead with you should do this because they're not going to listen. Doctors hear this every day, all day, in and out. Drug reps come in. You should be using our product because. And this triggers immediate resistance. So the other thing I think is that many of you feel that doctors are intimidating. I think a lot of you know me, a lot of you know me personally, and I don't think I'm intimidating. I think I'm pretty open. A lot of you think that they know more than you do, and they do in a very, very narrow scope, but not overall. A lot of you think that, oh, they're busier than you are. Also, not necessarily true. And remember, when it comes to LifeVantage, you are the expert. You know more about these products than anyone else. So put on your expert hat and talk to them as an expert. Here are some of the things that you can do wrong. Don't lead with oxidative stress science. You can mention that we have a product that's 20 years old that was founded in 2005, 32 studies, 7 patents. You can talk about the fact that oxidative stress is linked to 220 diseases, but these aren't the lead approaches. You can talk about our GLP-1 product. You can talk about our gut product and how 95% of serotonin is made in the gut. These are all facts that you can throw out during the conversation, but do not overload them with the science and research. Because here's the key. The key is that doctors don't have a science problem. They know science. They understand science. Their bigger problem is time and revenue. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to pull back the curtains. So think of this as the Wizard of Oz. I'm going to pull back the curtains and I'm going to show you what doctors really deal with. I'm going to show you what I dealt with when I was in practice. I'll be honest with you. And like I said, I don't know if Lindy is on the call tonight, but Lindy approached me at a business networking event and she said, "Can I come to your office?" Well, heard that story before, so I gave her my phone number to the front desk. My wife Jennifer manages our front desk. I never thought Jennifer would let her back to my office. I thought she would drop off some information, probably give Jennifer some cookies or something. That would be the end of it. I'd never hear from her again. Well, she got back to the office. So then we had the discussion. She threw some information down on my desk. I looked at it, immediately could tell that it was network marketing. I wasn't opposed to that, but I could tell that it was. And I said, yeah, I don't think I'm interested. I'm 62 years old at the time, and I didn't think I wanted to start another business. I was busy. I had that time revenue issue. And but I told her I would look at the products. She came back the next week. I looked at them, and she got me on a three-way call with Tara Wilson. And Tara is the one that convinced me because of the time and revenue part. Because she told me that they were coming out with a weight loss product that was going to activate GLP-1. That's what caught my interest. So doctors are burned out more and more every day, and they know that they're burned out. They are looking for something. And we'll talk about what we were looking for, what doctors around the country are looking for. They don't want to see more patients. They have less and less time available to themselves every day. They have less autonomy. The insurance companies and big pharma are telling them what to do. They went to medical school to help people. That's why they went to medical school. And they have less and less autonomy now. The insurance companies and big pharma are dictating what they can do. They have more and more paperwork. They have to make sure their T's are crossed, their I's are dotted, or they don't get paid. So there's more paperwork, there's more liability, they're getting sued more often, people are more and more unhappy, which means more and more paperwork, and they're making less money. So they are looking for an out. Um, the math, this is the math that nobody talks about. And I take down these numbers because this math, and you know I like my statistics and I like my math, but this is the math that no one is going to ever tell you about. Most of you do not understand this about your doctor. Medicare visit level 2 pays $54.99. So if you're a Medicare patient and you go in to see your doctor for most office visits, your doctor will probably bill Medicare $150, but they will receive $54.99. The average patient sees their doctor for 10 to 12 minutes. That's what an average level 2 office visit. Medicare mandates that they spend 10 minutes with you. Doesn't always happen, but that's the mandate. That means they can see 5 to 6 patients per hour. So we're going to do some math. That means their gross hourly revenue is somewhere between $250 and $350. So if they're working 5 hours a day, or 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that means that they're going to be making about $12,000 a week. If they work 50 weeks a year, they take 2 weeks off for family vacation. I think that's pretty good for a doctor. That's before expenses. So where does the money go? If a doctor is making $300 an hour, it's not real money. And here's why. They have expenses. They have rent and mortgage or a mortgage. They have malpractice insurance. The average family doctor, if he has not been sued, is paying about $20,000 a year for malpractice insurance. He has staff salaries. Staff salary is about 50 to 60% of your overhead in a medical practice. So that's the key feature. And then they have benefits and payroll taxes. They have supplies and equipment. They have an electronic medical records that they have to pay for. They usually have a billing company that's doing the billing for them. This takes a percentage, and they have utilities. Well, this all adds up. It adds up in a medical practice of about 80 to 90% of their income. That's before taxes. So that means about 25% tax bracket at $240,000 means 60,000 goes back to the government. So he's taking home about $180,000. He has student loan debt. My student loan debt was about $400,000. So if you put all that together, he's really not making any more than, say, a plumber, an electrician, a painter. He's making about the same amount of money as a family practice physician. They're all looking for a side hustle. That most of the side hustle is aesthetics, some weight loss, some peptides, but they're looking for a cash-based side hustle that's outside of insurance control. That's how they're making ends meet. If you realize the average doctor, they actually did a study, and the average doctor does not put a penny into his pocket until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From 8 a.m. when he opens till 3 in the afternoon, all that money is going to overhead. So from 3 o'clock on, he is actually making money that he can bring home to his family. For everyone that's on the call, there's about 40 people on the call tonight. Tell me if your doctor either works evening hours, Saturday hours, early morning hours. Put that in the chat, because if he's doing that, if you figure the standard workday, 8 a.m. in the morning, go into the office, close the office at 4 in the afternoon, maybe then you have to go to the hospital and see some inpatient, or you have to do some paperwork or run your practice after 4. But during those 8 hours a day, you're only making money that you're bringing home about 1 hour. Making about 1 hour of that income actually comes home to you. That's why doctors are not opening early in the morning, starting office hours at 6, or working after dinner till 8, 9 o'clock at night, or working on Saturdays, sometimes even Sundays. We have a chiropractor here in Ocala that works Sunday hours. They're not doing that because they're trying to be nice. They're not doing that because they're trying to open up time for their patients. They're doing that to make ends meet. And it's sad to hear. So we talked about, and I'm kind of pulling back the curtain. The last 10, 15 minutes is going to be where you really are wanting to take notes on why this is all important. So the big thing is aesthetics. I see doctors every day. My other job outside of LifeVantage is I help doctors get into cash-based medicine, usually regenerative medicine, PRP, stem cells, but now LifeVantage. I do training programs and I have my own mastermind and things like that for doctors. But the big thing that people really first reach out for is aesthetics. And this is the Botox margin myth. Aesthetics are not the gold mine that people think they are. I'm not going to call people out and say who on the call goes to an esthetician or a practitioner to get Botox. I'll admit that I do. I need mine done on my forehead. I'm looking old, but that's a different subject. So here's the Botox myth. A bottle of Botox costs the doctor about $600. There's 100 units per vial, and it's sold usually around $10 or higher per unit. Your net margin then is $4 per unit. So if somebody comes in and gets 50 units, you're going to make about $200. They get 100 units, a full vial, you're going to make about $400 before profit. But that's not scalable. That's just making them busier. That means they have to see more patients. They might do their regular practice Monday through Friday, open their med spa on Saturday and Sunday. That's the way they make their ends meet. Here's what physicians are looking for, and they will rarely say this out loud. They want scalable income. They want income that has a predictable revenue. They don't want to have to take insurance. They don't want to expand their staff. They don't want to bring in nurse practitioners. They don't want to bring in PAs. They don't want to buy new equipment. New equipment is expensive. A laser, if you're doing lasers as part of your aesthetic practice, a new laser is $250,000. They don't want more liability. They do not want more exam rooms. They are looking for one major thing. They are looking for mailbox money. That's money that is coming in despite them being in the office. And when you talk to doctors about mailbox money, they will understand it immediately. Because here's what they're looking for. They're looking for income that is not tied to a doctor's visit. They're looking for income that's not dependent on their physical presence in the office. They're looking for income that can be done alongside their practice and not take time away from seeing patients. They're looking for money that can survive their retirement. Because remember this, and doctors will admit, when they stop seeing patients, they aren't going to get paid by Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They're not going to get paid by Medicare. Blue Cross and Blue Shield's not going to say, you know what, Dr. Jones, you were a good doctor all your life. We're just going to continue to pay you. Ridiculous, right? So they're looking for a way to extend that money into retirement. Believe it or not, there's a lot of doctors out there that can't give up their practice because they can't afford it. They need that check from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They need that check from Medicare to make ends meet every month. They haven't saved well, and it's expensive to run a practice. And they want to now be able to exist outside of the healthcare system. So how does LifeVantage fit into this without a pitch? This is the way that you need to talk to your doctors. It's not about selling supplements. It's about leverage. It's about ownership of their own business. It's about distribution of their products among their patients. It's about recurring revenue. And science becomes the why, but it's not the hook. So you need to be prepared with the science, but the science cannot be what you're giving them first. You need them to understand that you know what they're going through. Because when they see you walk in, they think that you don't have any idea what's going on behind the practice. That's why I'm pulling the curtains back, and I want you to see what doctors really live, what their practice is really like, what they're dealing with on a daily basis. And it's not what you think. I think a lot of doctors, when you walk in, they think that you look at them as being rich and you're going to bombard them with the science because you think they need that. But that's not what they need. They need that extra revenue. So here's the correct way to approach a doctor. And I've broken it down to a very easy 5 step conversation framework that you can have with your physician. Acknowledge their frustration. Say, hey, I was on a webinar with a doctor that's on our team, and he explained to us what's going on in medical practices, why doctors are struggling, why you're struggling with what the insurance companies are telling you, why you're struggling with what big pharma is telling you. So acknowledge that frustration. Validate that it's a broken system, that the system is absolutely broken, that they don't have enough time to really sit down and talk with their patients about what is needed. Introduce them to the scalable alternative. Um, Explain to them that if you have 100 patients and you put 100 patients on Protandim and you're making about $15 if you're getting a 30% return, which is once you get 100 people, you're easily getting 30%. So 30% of a $60 product, you're making about $18 per patient. You put 100 patients in, that's an extra $1,800 a month mailbox money. Ask them permission on explaining how it works, and then only discuss the science. Once you get them hooked, that you understand the financial side, you understand their struggle, then you can discuss the science part. Why Protandim should be in the water and everyone in the world should take it, and why our GLP-1 alternative works for some of the people that don't want shots, don't want to pay the high price of the big pharma drugs. Then you can start talking about the science, but only then, once they understand that what their problem is and what they're dealing with. How to win with physicians without being salesy. And these are things that you should probably try to write down. Have your research ready. Have some of it printed off in a folder that you can give them at the end of the meeting, but don't lead with it. Never lie or exaggerate, because your credibility matters more than confidence. You need to be credible. If you don't know an answer, say so and say, hey, I don't know that, but let me follow up with somebody that's on our team. Let me follow up with one of the doctors I work with. One of the doctors I work with is on the scientific advisory board. Let me ask them. But be honest. Don't drop in unannounced. Make an appointment, schedule the appointment with the front desk. The front desk controls the access to the office. So have a rapport with the front desk person. You might even need to drop in once or twice to get that meeting set up. Kindness and coffee or chocolate goes a long way. So it's okay to bribe the front desk girl. That's how Lindy got back to me. She bribed my wife, and I think with cookies, I think is what it was. Ask for permission and don't pitch it. Curiosity beats persuasion. If you can keep them curious about what's really going on here, you can probably get them interested in the business. And then offer a three-way conversation. If you think they're interested, but you don't have them complete yet, then say, you know what, would you be willing to hop on a three-way call with one of the doctors on my team? I'm here. I'm always willing to help. We just need to schedule it maybe a week in advance. And then play the long game. Earn their trust first, and often their business will follow. One final word. Doctors won't listen to another lecture. They do not want to be lectured to, but they will listen to someone that understands their reality. And so lead with their reality, lead to what their problem is. Find that problem and address that problem. And then you'll be able to win their business. And then once they understand that you're really there to help, then you can start feeding them the science. You can send them an email with the science. But I think it's important to gain that trust first and get them to understand that this isn't necessarily just about the products because they don't want to take more time. They don't want to take more time to add something more busy work to their system. But if they can understand that they're going to be paid for it, a lot of times they're willing to get involved. That's all I have for the lecture part. I'm going to go ahead. If anyone has a question, I clicked the where you can unmute yourself. Go ahead and unmute, and I'll answer any questions that I can.
I'm good now. Thank
Okay,
you,
cool.
Dr. Jeff. So my question is, I have gone to like estheticians, chiropractors, and whatnot, and they have a plethora of products that they already have on their
Mhm.
shelves. And they're like, I need to sell this before I can, look at something else, or they have a true belief in the products that they sell, right?
Mhm.
So how do we talk to them and get them interested in the Life Vantage over what they already have in their office?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I think first of all, like I said in the talk, make sure get their trust. Say, hey, I understand what you're going through. I understand that you have this whole wall of products that you've paid for. You've got to get your revenue back. Then explain to them, hey, there's nothing to buy. You buy one set of products, put them up there, and then get them. They'll be shipped to them every month. So there's no big outlay of funds for this. And then that's where you can start talking about the science. Talk to them about the fact that we have patents on our products. Our products are actually tested in human studies. Most of those products are not, and they'll admit the fact that they don't have studies on those products. Understand the difference between supplementation and activation. I think it's key. I think that everyone on this call, if you're part of LifeVantage, you have that discussion already kind of down, that you understand that if supplementation is you're low in vitamin D, you take vitamin D. You're supplementing your vitamin D levels. Activation is you're low in GLP-1, but we're not going to give you GLP-1. We're not going to give you a GLP-1 pill. We're going to give you something that's going to affect your genetic pathway to build your own GLP-1. So I think it's important to understand that difference between supplementation and activation and tell the practitioner, hey, this is different. This is an activator. We are one of the only companies in the nutrigenomic space that has activators. And so that's where our products are going to be different than the products that you already have, the 100 products that you already have on your shelf. So that, I think, is a key that kind of solves part of that problem.
Would you leave them with samples of products when
Yeah,
you
so
go
that's a
in?
great question. So I have a meeting tomorrow with somebody that's going to sign up. She's a OBGYN, about 45 minutes south of me, and we already had a Zoom call, and I was at her office helping her teach a workshop. And I know she's joining, but I'm going down tomorrow because she wants to try the P84 and she wants to try the Mind Body. So I'm going to go down and make a couple shakes and let everybody in the office try stuff. I'll probably leave them 5, 6, maybe even 10 packs of Axio.